So we have a protocol that's catching a lot of attention right now, and the protocol is to do transcranial magnetic stimulation on the student. Immediately thereafter, we do 1 hour of neural feedback, brain mapping and neural feedback, and then we use a theta light and sound frequency bed called a theta chamber, and they get all of that in about a 2 hour session every day for 36
What do they
straight days.
feel like after like one session when they come out, or two sessions, or three sessions?
Usually it takes about 3 to 4. I've seen some very immediate reactions with folks that suffer from bipolar. The bipolar community has the fastest reaction to neurofeedback. But I've seen, by and large, I would say an average is 4 to 6 treatments before all of a sudden I come in and I can see it, because these guys are no longer a wet blanket. They are grinning from ear to ear, going, I don't know what just happened, but something just popped and clicked. And then they stay there. Well, the white papers on this technology, TMS and neurofeedback, are vast. It's 27-year-old technologies. The white papers, the efficacy is there. It's been proven over 5-year studies that if you do this modality, this treatment modality, over a long period of time, 36 days of treatment, you're going to knock a long ball out there on your success of relapse. And that relapse prevention over a 5-year study is showing to be somewhere between 70 and 85% success of this. You don't have those type of numbers with drugs.
Nowhere close.
With SSRIs and antidepressants, it's not there. And so does this technology work? Absolutely. What we do absolutely works.
Hello and welcome to another exclusive interview by Recovery Today Magazine at recoverytodaymagazine.com, where first and foremost, we're a magazine hope. Whether you're considering addiction recovery for yourself or a loved one, or maybe you've been actively in recovery a long time or a little while, you're going to find all kinds of topics related to addiction recovery and really living a happy, successful, sober life at Recovery Today. My name's Rob Hanley. I'm the editor-in-chief of Recovery Today. And as usual, I've got another amazing guest. This guy has been a longtime friend, and we've actually featured him a couple of different times in Recovery Today. He's an active producer in film and television for over 25 years. Big respect, not only as a veteran, but I think as a Marine of the Armed Forces. He's an avid pilot. He's a rock climber, an extreme rock climber, and a mountaineer who spent 2 years filming the documentary titled Sherpa as he climbed in the mountains of the region of Everest. He's recovered from addiction for over 10 years. He's extremely active in the recovery community and all things having to do with mental health, specifically with his amazing story of his spiritual awakening. He's co-authored a book called Guide to Spiritual Awakening, and he just completed the second book titled How Free Do You Want to Be? My guest today, my good friend, Robert Cord Beatty. Dude, thank you for jumping on for a minute.
Hey, thanks, Rob. It's great to be here.
Man,
morning.
I just love, one of the things I was thinking about as I was introducing you is, kind of the journey overall that we've had, since we first, since I was first introduced to you, and you blew me away with, some of these exploits and things like that you've done in your life. I mean, the Mount Everest stuff, climbing Mount Everest and filming these movies and being a pilot and the military. And then your really powerful, addiction and sobriety story. Now these books, and then I'm chomping at the bit when we started talking about what you're doing now. I really think that it is actually game changing. So I guess, first of all, give us a little bit more of, I gave you everybody the little bio, short little bio, but get in a little bit to some of the nitty gritty of who you are. And then I want to make sure that we have time here to really spotlight what it is that you are doing at your place in sunny all the time, St. George, Utah at Zion Healing Center. So let it rip, man.
Thanks, Rob. Well, I think you kind of gave a good brief overview of my history. I mean, I don't have a different story than most people in recovery.
Yeah, you do. Yeah. There's the Everest part. Yeah, there's the jet pilot part. Yeah, there's a couple of things. Yeah.
Well, but when it comes to the addiction part and the mental illness part, I think my story is the same as everybody. I had a net worth of $35 million at one time and lost everything, and then end up living on the streets of Salt Lake City in a tent.
Oh yeah, there's that.
There's that, and health reasons, and 2010 was a telling year for me because everybody's low. Everybody, when you get that new low, it becomes an acceptable new low, right? We all experience that, and I think that everybody's new acceptable low is at a different level. For some people, what's a life crisis for someone might be nothing at all to me, right. And then some people, and some of us have suffered more financially, suffered more spiritually, suffered more physically and mentally than anyone would ever imagine, right? And I meet people all the time that have stories. In my center here, I meet people all the time that I think, oh, my story is nothing compared to what you've gone through. And so I think it's all about this new acceptable low. And my new acceptable low, the final new acceptable low, came with a heart attack, a liver failure, kidney failures, and on death's door at the LDS hospital in Salt Lake City, having a doctor say, you are not going to live the day. And
the day.
And that was it. And I think that's what it took for me to fully concede to my innermost self, as we talk about the powerlessness of that and the unmanageability of that, and to fully concede to God's power and reach out finally and say, I need you. And so my story is the same as everybody else. That's just what it took. And then I came back. I went to Purdue University after all the exploits of trying to get my health back, and going to Nepal, spending about a year in Nepal, running around, filming this thing, thinking I was going to be back in the film industry. And my creator, he had a little different plan for me, when it really came down to it. And that was to get into the treatment of addiction, mental illness for others. If you would have told me, if somebody would have said to me, if you would have called me and said, hey, buddy, I know what's going to happen to you. And that call would have happened 10 years ago, and you would have said, you're going to run a treatment center for substance abuse and mental health issues. I would have said, Rob, you're freaking crazy. I'm never going to do that. And yet, I was led to do that. And I went back to school to chase a master's degree at Purdue University, thinking I was just going to be one of these guys that became happy with a $45,000 a year job as a substance abuse counselor or a therapist for, Southwest Behavioral Health in St. George, Utah. Like I say, God had a little different plan for me, and he led me gave me the tools and the things I needed necessary to open up my first
miraculously.
Yeah. And I opened my first treatment center in Park City. And we sold that after building it, and it was taken by a men's ranch. It's still there. New Year Recovery is still in Park City. We opened up the retreat at Zion in Rockville, Utah, on a 15-acre ranch.
That's where we started with you. Yeah.
And that's where it really kind of started. And as time went on, it developed into a couple of different thought processes. We were very successful at helping a lot of people, and but the inpatient treatment model has some fundamental flaws to it, and if we're in the business, we all understand what they are. And the fundamental flaws are usually that no one becomes sober on their first attempt through inpatient treatment. All treatment is good, Rob. I firmly believe that. Inpatient, outpatient therapy, all treatment is good. But the fundamental flaw that I saw was that the failure rate was very, very high. And it became an issue of understanding for me, what led me to where I'm at today is that the failure rate became very apparent to me that it was due to the underlying issue of depression and anxiety that was driving the addiction. And to do group therapy 3 times a day as an inpatient treatment center is not going to get to, it's not going to get us there, right?
Yeah.
We're not treating the depression. So I had a couple of catastrophic things happen with which all treatment centers do. A couple of guys that relapsed and lost their life to the relapse. And it kind of set me on a course of actually thinking I was going to get out of this business because I'd become pretty attached to these people.
Yeah.
We become more like family members here than therapists and patients, you know. And I never call my people patients. They are students in recovery. And
I love that. I don't think I've heard anybody say that. Students in recovery.
they are students of recovery. They're learning what they need to learn to change the way that they think to become well and whole again. And I've always considered them that. And so a few years back, I went home and told KT, my wife, I quit.
Who, by the way, we have featured in Recovery Today too, because she's freaking amazing with all of her animals and tigers and lions and all the other things that she does. The Whisperer.
Yeah, she was a pro wrestler. She was an original Glow girl. She was KT Olympia Hart in the WWE, and you know, she just has an amazing history herself, and a family that came from addiction and suffering as well. But I went home one day and told her I quit, and we sold that ranch. We sold the business. We took about a year off, and we really thought about what we were doing that year. And I started really focusing and drilling down on this issue of how do we treat effectively the underlying driving reasons behind the addiction, which is our depression and our anxiety.
And trauma, of course. Yep.
Trauma and PTSDs. And a couple of things came to mind. I remember trips to the Veterans Administration and learning years and years and years ago about some technology that they were deploying, that our government was deploying for our military guys with PTSD. And it was in the form of neurofeedback. And I did a little more research on it. I had experienced neurofeedback myself. I had been treated with neurofeedback at the VA. And so I understood what it was. And I started looking at the white papers on it. And clearly, neurofeedback, I could give you an hour worth of dissertation on what neurofeedback is and does medically, and scientifically. But in a nutshell, neurofeedback wakes the brain up, the parts of the brain that have been damaged, and it forces them to work out just like a physical therapist. So it's physical therapy for the brain. And so I decided to get into the outpatient program again. Opened up our outpatient program in St. George called Zion Recovery. Bought a neurofeedback machine, a QEEG machine that actually maps your brain. It shows us in a 3D image where the damage of the brain is at in red.
You actually see it. You can actually see
it. And then it specifically treats that piece of the brain that's damaged, only that piece. And it goes right after it. And then every day you can see a new mapping, and you can see this red just kind of.
You can actually see progress.
Oh yeah, every day. You'll watch it diminish until it's gone. All the red is gone. About 35 treatments, and it's all gone every time, right? And you don't know what those things are causing. Those damaged parts of our brain could be PTSD, traumas. It could be anxiety and depression. So
what are the, I don't want to call them patients. What are the, friends in, I forgot what you said, in recovery, learning students? What did they say along the way? Obviously they're seeing like it's getting smaller, but do they tell you, oh my God, like I'm not feeling this, I'm not feeling that along the way as well?
Yeah, we do. The machines that we have do a new assessment every day before the treatment. So it's a questionnaire, and they get to see and they get to experience, because it's coming out of their mouth, the progress that they are seeing and experiencing. and it's miraculous. And I've got guys, ABC News came in yesterday and did an article on us yesterday afternoon.
ABC News or ABC did, really? Wow. TV.
Yeah. And they wanted to know about the modalities of the treat. We have a treatment modality. It's not just the technology.
Yep.
We have another technology called TMS, or Transcranial Magnetic Stimulation. I can get you an image of that.
Yep.
And the transcranial magnetic stimulation works on this prefrontal cortex of the left side of our brain. And what it does, Rob, this FDA approved device, which, by the way, all of our devices are FDA approved. We don't use anything that's not FDA.
Of course.
And it's a medical device, and it stimulates with a magnetic pulse, an MRI strength magnetic pulse. It stimulates these receptors in the prefrontal cortex of the brain. They're the receptors that regulate mood and dopamine distribution to the body, right? So if I'm a depressed individual and I go to a psychiatrist and I say I have suicide ideation, I am at my wit's end, I don't know what to do. He's going to tell me, we've got to stimulate these receptors right here in this prefrontal cortex of your brain to get rid of this depression. So I'm going to put you on Prozac or Wellbutrin or Zyprexa to stimulate these things so that you can be well.
Of course.
And I'm on a drug, and the drug has an effect. They're very effective at doing that. They have a long-term effect, but they have a downside, which is that, like any drug, our bodies are susceptible to absorption and tolerance. And so a higher dose until they're non-effective. And then they put me on a second drug. They don't take me off the first one because they can't do that.
Yeah, and you need a drug to help you with your depression drug. Yeah.
And then I need another one. And if you've suffered from depression, which I know you have, I've suffered from depression. Severe depression. You know what I'm talking about, that at one time I was on 9 different medications.
Yep.
And
I've only been on one, but I'm not anti-drug, and mostly I am, but there was a place for it, and it actually was needed for me for a short period. But I felt like I was that, and I was on ADHD medication for a while too. Anyhow, I just felt like I was, I was on drugs all the time. Is what I felt like. I felt like, I feel like I'm on drugs.
Yeah. So doped up, So we have a protocol that's catching a lot of attention right now, and the protocol is to do transcranial magnetic stimulation on the student. Immediately thereafter, we do 1 hour of neurofeedback, brain mapping and neurofeedback, and then we use a theta light and sound frequency bed called a theta chamber, and they get all of that in about a 2-hour session every day for 36
What do they
straight
feel like after like one session when they come out, or 2 sessions or 3 sessions?
Usually it takes about 3 to 4. I've seen some very immediate reactions with folks that suffer from bipolar. The bipolar community has the fastest reaction to neurofeedback. But I've seen, by and large, I would say an average is 4 to 6 treatments before all of a sudden I come in and I can see it, because these guys are no longer a wet blanket. They are grinning from ear to ear, going, I don't know what just happened, but something just popped and clicked. And then they stay there. Well, the white papers on this technology, TMS and neurofeedback, are vast. It's 27-year-old technologies. The white papers, the efficacy is there. It's been proven over 5-year studies that if you do this modality, this treatment modality, over a long period of time, 36 days of treatment, you're going to knock a long ball out there on your success of relapse. And that relapse prevention over a 5-year study is showing to be somewhere between 70 and 85% success of this. You don't have those type of numbers with drugs.
Nowhere close.
with SSRIs and antidepressants. It's not there. And so does this technology work? Absolutely. What we do absolutely works. In so much that we made a decision last year it was working so well. We made a decision last year to franchise this opportunity and turn it into a business opportunity that could be franchised nationwide. And we just launched this about 90 days ago. Yeah.
Awesome. Really, really, really awesome. I was blown away overall by some of the other results that you had told me in previous conversations, even stuff about people that I know that we know that have used it and tried it. And my first thought was, I'm doing pretty good, but I'm thinking I want to get in that chamber. I want to get in that, hook that up to me. That's really, really awesome. Is one of the technologies the more of the secret sauce? Is the combination? And I don't want to forget this, because I remember from our first interview, one of the things that was unique, because we're talking not only and I love to talk about depression, because it gives meaning for my own pain, and to just try to save or help anybody else. Try this, do this, think about things this way. This is what works to me. It works for me. Go to the gym, sweat, take a cold shower, anything that you can do, control the things that you can control. These are my mantras. Just pray and release everything else to God, or whatever you want to do. Just try to just flow is what I always coach people on. But I remember with your addiction treatment center at the retreat at Zion, one of the things that you did was you had a rapid, you took like a whole, the whole 12 steps, and you combined it down into is any part of what you were doing there still part of this now? Because I'm hearing that was obviously very focused on addiction, but this is now focused maybe on the underlying causes.
Yeah, we are focused primarily on the underlying causes, but the program that we developed at the retreat at Zion still exists. We still do all 12 steps with these folks while they're in treatment. We do daily classes. I've taken the whole course of it's based off of my book, How Free You Want to Be. But the course itself is called 15 Promises to Freedom. And what we've identified to condense that, Rob, is that within that 12-step program, or if you look at where the origin of the 12-step program that came from Alcoholics Anonymous, the big book, as they call it, within that book are 15 specific identifiable promises that are not only identifiable, but they are life-changing promises. There's 15 of them. And if you can just walk people systematically through that so that they don't understand what the promise is, but they actually experience the promise. So the promise is there and they've had an experience with it. Well, history will tell you that, from 1939 forward, that works. And if you couple that up with this treatment, you're going after the underlying issues, and then you're topping that off with a spiritual program that leads them from suffering to spiritual awakening and freedom. These guys are my success rate is off the chart with what we're doing with these folks, and the story after story after story, no failures. And we finally got this out. No failures. We don't have the relapse stuff going on.
No failures.
Knock on wood. So far, no.
What happens after? What happens after they leave? What kind of continuity program do you have?
They have an online
program or somebody they check in with or something like that. What happens next?
They become because they're alumni, they become an automatic member of our Facebook and online social community and family. And they have access to my live podcasts and ongoing educational materials. They have full access to all 15 of the videos, so they can review them on time or on demand. And they have access to me live, once a week. And do
you feel that it is I think I know the answer to the question, but do you feel that it's a permanent change? Or to frame it in the way that I think that it actually is, because you already mentioned it's exercise for the brain. I find making sure that I always think of depression as like, in my mind, I think of it as like a big muddy hill, okay, and it's wet and it's been raining, and so the whole analogy of like I can slide down,
Yeah.
and sometimes I feel like I'm just going to slide down. It has been in the past, like almost as an experiment, or maybe it's like if I just feel shitty enough that God will come down and just lift me up. And I will say now, like, you have to, when you're sliding down or whatever, you got to climb, because the further down you get, it gets harder, man. It gets harder. So even when you're first starting to move, you got to do something. So in my mind, I'm thinking that maybe this is a jump start, or it dramatically sets you up on the top, but you're always going to have to be going. It's not like I worked out 10 years ago and so I'm in shape all of the time. Am I on target a little bit with that?
Well, you are it takes, there has to be some type of a maintenance program that you have to, I firmly believe that you have to engage in your recovery. And, I don't believe that we are in recovery for the rest of our lives. I believe that the issues that we suffer from, like any disease, is curable. Any disease on the face of this planet is curable if we find the right solution. And if we're willing to go after that solution. I heard
But the solution is often a lifestyle change. You're not going to go out and party, and
yeah,
it's
it's
not like,
got to be, you got to change. You have to become a new person. You have to have a
yeah,
new identity.
yeah.
So if you take on your old identity, yeah, of course you're going to slide backwards, and I teach that in my classes. And then my clinics, our franchise clinics, one of the things that they commit to, that we commit to, is the long-term repetition of communication, access to our community for our students, and then also telling them that if they have what you were just describing as a slide, they have access to us. For instance, I had a guy last year came through the program, new identity, new life. He was just sailing. His business just took off, and his wife and they started traveling. They were going all over the world, and he was a completely new person, and he got COVID, and it knocked him down. And I was talking to him. I said, "Dude, you're doing so well. Don't forget that." And he over the phone, he actually said this. He said, "I wish that COVID would just take me off the planet."
Yeah.
You don't mean that, do you? He said, "I absolutely mean it. That's how bad I am." And I said, when you get the COVID crap over with, that BS, I am urging you to come into the clinic and get one treatment, one full treatment. I don't charge money for this. Come in, because check this out. The brain is a muscle. The brain doesn't forget what it just went through or what it's been through 5 years ago. We do. It's us that tunes that out.
Yeah.
The brain itself does not forget. And the brain has done a lot of work to get that muscle memory that it has developed with this technology. It's done a lot of work. It's not going to forget. And he wouldn't believe me. And it took, after the COVID thing, it took me about another 2 weeks of talking to him off and on before his wife called me and said, "I don't know what to do." And I said, "Tough love. You either tell him he's got to come down here for a single treatment, or you're leaving."
Yeah.
And
That'll do it.
she did. And he came down for one treatment, and it snapped him out of it just like that. He was right back on top.
And how's he doing today?
Oh, he's incredible. He was interviewed by ABC yesterday, and he told this story and just said this stuff absolutely 100% works. I'm a product of it, and it's just incredible to watch those miracles.
So
and
at a time when, bringing up my favorite topic, COVID, mass sarcasm intended, because I suffer, by the way, and this is my term, I suffer from PFS. PFS is pandemic fatigue syndrome. Okay. I am so over this shit. I can't even tell you how over it is. And it's like, when is it going to end? I finally have come to accept. I heard a doctor the other day says it's never going to end. I don't know, man. I live in my seeing everybody wearing masks forever, little kids and shit like that. I don't want to tangent too much, but I'm so the reason I bring up this the reason I bring up this thing, and I can just start rolling immediately about this, is because of what this has done, not only to those that would normally be quote unquote normal, but to those that are in recovery. It's been just genocide, like they're overdoses, suicides through the roof, man. And we are made to connect is and so and we're made to, I think depression for me, I consider it my own personal spiritual belief is I think that it's like spiritual warfare. Yes, I know that there's things that are happening and my brain's not this, that, and the other. So if that's not somebody that's listening, but I think I think that part of it is what the tape that runs in my head, and I think a lot of people's is you're alone. Nobody would get it. Nobody would understand it. And so what COVID has done with this lack of being able to connect or go to meetings, of course you can buy weed, of course you can buy, alcohol, you friggin', whatever you want, but being able to work your recovery program. So I cannot think of a time in modern history, in my lifetime, where something like this is needed, because in terms of mental health, I feel like the house is burning down. We're a magazine of hope, so I don't want to cast a dark thing, but we also have to keep it real.
Right. I agree.
So
100% agree. I mean, there's solutions out there. I can tell you, if anybody was reading this or listening to this, I'll tell you, and you're suffering, I'll tell you straight up that that 100%, absolutely, you do not have to suffer the way that you're suffering.
yeah,
There are answers, whether you came to me or you came to one of my
don't
clinics.
kill yourself.
There are answers to this, and for you to hole up in a hole and then end up in a suicide, there, you don't have to suffer like that. Not on this, not we weren't put here on this planet to suffer and then kill ourselves. That's not why we're here. There's a purpose, and we need to figure that out. And it's really cool, whatever it is. Everybody's story is different, but if you stick around, the story is going to turn out to be really, really cool. And there are answers. You don't have to suffer that way.
So let me ask this, because I'm fascinated by the brain, and like you, I'm also a big student of human potential and personal development and dreams and visions and aspirations and building and creating and doing all of these things. Do you feel like when I first went to a therapist, I was in my early 20s, and I was in college, and I had all kinds of stuff going on, and I was super, super stressed out. I remember telling her, I think I'm going to have a nervous breakdown. And she said, oh no, I'm quite certain, like, you already have had one, So I was all freaked out that I was going to have a nervous breakdown and I was going to be crazy, right? To come to realize everybody's crazy. But
some of us hide it better, by the way.
What's that?
Some of us hide it better.
Some of us hide it better. Exactly. So I remember, though, one of the things that she had told me about depression, number one, and for anybody, a little nugget of hope that my therapist from 30 some odd years ago told me is, it's the common cold of mental health. Okay. It's the common cold of mental health. And so shit happens and you can have this. But one of the things that she told me is that because you're feeling, you're wired this way, or you create this wiring has happened, you're feeling these lows. It means, because everything is compared to what? You already know where I'm going. Is this expensive? Is this big? Am I fat? Am I this? Am I that? Compared to what? So what she offered me was, because you are able to feel this intense pain, it means that you're probably able to feel joy and fulfillment and love and satisfaction even greater than those that might just bump along like this. The fact that that I was like this. So what are your thoughts? You mentioned this guy that comes in and he's, and now he's setting the world on fire. Are you also a believer that those that suffer from these ailments or were wired this way, do you also believe that we also have greater potential? I like that super, like addictions is superpower. Are you on board with that?
Oh, 100%. I mean, the achievers, the guys that come out of this and the girls that come out of this and latch onto it and have a spiritual experience and deal with the underlying traumas and depression and anxiety. These people are overachievers. I mean, they're doing things. My students are out there doing things that I would have never thought that they would be doing, never thought capable of doing, because of who they were when they came through the door. Even though I knew it was there, and I encourage that. I'm 100% on board with you, Rob. I firmly believe that.
Yeah.
These are the most gifted, talented individuals on the face of this planet.
I think so as well. In my opinion, most that kind of bump along almost that are, they're just good people and they're working their 9 to 5 and they don't, I've always had this innate kind of thing like, man, there's something I was created to do. There's, why is it this way? How does this work? What is this all about? What's life about? What am I created? All of these, I call them the weightier matters, or I read that somewhere, the weightier matters of life. And I think a lot of people, they just kind of bump along a little bit. And it's almost like when you get this right, or you're able to detach from whatever the outcome is, then you're able to kind of accept yourself and then really to move forward in whatever direction that you're moving in. I see people that go from becoming extremely obese to like they're freaking, they're fitness models, man.
They do, and they're people that become artists, and they're people that become leaders in their community. I mean,
they create businesses that kick ass.
They create businesses. I've seen a couple of guys come through my program that are out there entrepreneurially that created businesses that from the outside, I said to myself, probably not going to work. And yet they've made it work, not only work, but flourish and become very extremely wealthy over it. And they have talent that I wish I could tap into. Sometimes I think that, and I always consider that with my own people here, my students. I learn more from these guys than they'll ever learn from me, in my opinion. I'm the student, not them, when they get here.
As we wind down a little bit, one of the things I want to get in there is the cornerstone of, and this is, I probably should have asked this a while ago, is the cornerstone, I think, of all of this, which is your book and about a spiritual awakening. Can you kind of give a quick synopsis of, what's the secret sauce in that? What's the formula? What's the cliff note to that most important thing, which I think is actually the piece that fueled you?
Well, it is. Like when we started in this conversation, I mentioned that everybody's what's a life crisis to one person might be nothing at all to another, right? The spiritual experience that we go through, that we model after my book, is not about drugs or alcohol. It's not about depression. It's about every issue imaginable, because it really deals with one issue and one issue only. And that is a full and complete understanding and experience that I am actually without power to overcome any issue in my life, that I actually really don't have that power, that I need something greater than this head of mine. And so the whole book is about changing the way that we think. It's about using the spiritual experiences to change the way that our brain is working, being able to rely on something greater than us, right? And it's effective. It's been effective since 1939. These methods have
What's
cured.
1939? That's twice you've mentioned 1939. What's that?
It was when the principles that it's built around were originally written, was called the 12-step program, right? The 12-step program, as it was written in 1939, was extremely hard to understand.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
My book is not hard to understand, but the principles of that are there. So I really go after those principles.
Yeah, of course.
and leading you through that spiritual awakening. And to be honest with you, Rob, and I wouldn't want to stand on a soapbox and say this is the only truth of this, but I've been sober now for 11 years this year, and I am fully recovered. And in the front part of their book, they say this is a story of how millions, it says thousands, but or hundreds at the time it was written. But in today's day and age, those principles, it's different than that. This is a story of how millions of people, men and women, have recovered. It doesn't say that they're in recovery or working on recovery or continuing to work on recovery. It uses the word recovered, which suggests the word cured, because that's what it means in the English dictionary. So I believe that the answer to all of these issues are spiritual ones, because ultimately, to maintain a level of being cured, if that's what you're seeking, you're going to have to take on a spiritual role in your life. It's going to have to happen.
It's not, I don't really see it so much as being cured as I see it as a transformation. And, like I was saying, are you going to need to? Well, yeah, you're not going to go back if you're an addict and go back to your same friends and your same things like that. It's really, I see it, and this does feed in spiritually, I guess I would say, is it's a death of the old man and or a woman, and then it's a rebirth. Like, I used to, when I first got sober, and I've got 27 years, I think I literally have to add it up. It was the spring of 1994. I just kind of started creating this whole different persona that I'm a guy who doesn't drink. It wasn't even a big deal. Like, I'm going to stop. It was this very much like, this is who I am. And so I love that. I love the idea that you're cured, because I see it as almost you're a different person. That's really how I see it.
You have a new identity. And I'm just a guy that doesn't use drugs or alcohol.
Yeah. I'm happy in my family. I'm satisfied. I'm fulfilled.
I don't need to, and I laugh about it, because I used to think that I needed an AA meeting every day to stay sober, or I always thought that this program was about not drinking, and it's not. It's about what you just said. It's about creating a new identity.
Yeah, and listen, for anybody out there that's in that, my opinion, by the way, is whatever program you have that's working for you, I would be the last person in the world to make fun of or to say, oh, that's old or something like that, that you're going to a meeting every day.
Yeah. Me too. I would
any
never
kind of way, if it's working for you, you keep going on. But I'm also a believer that there's new, things, there's new stuff, or there's adjuncts that you can add on to what it is that you're doing right now. So for everybody that's, I get originally, even when Recovery Today came out, they would say, what about anonymity? Well, we want to, now we want to change the stigma, man. Like, so there's an evolution to things.
Yeah, I have, I'm with you. I have multiple friends that do maintain a level of sobriety and do maintain their level of recovery by doing meetings every day. And I'm with you, Rob. If that's working, man, don't give it up. Please don't.
Absolutely.
Because it's where you find your happiness and your zen and your emotional high is there, and your spirituality is there. It's like going to church every day, and please do that. And I still go to AA, at least once a week. I love the fellowship of AA.
Yeah.
And I do. I love the people. I love the atmosphere.
I love that you can be authentic and you can be truthful, and nobody gets freaked out or judges at all.
Nobody cares. Yeah.
Nobody cares, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're
So let me ask this. If you're a treatment center owner, is this a franchise that you can bring into your existing program? What about those that are thinking, man, I'm entrepreneurial, or this is needed, or something like that? How would that work?
It is a nationwide registered franchise. We've spent a lot of time and money getting it there. The franchise to put one of our clinics on the ground is $350,000. To do that, you need to have the financial wherewithal to do that. The full support is there from training. We as of yesterday, August 17th, we are now contracted and as the exclusive franchise for the Neurostar TMS equipment. That's a partnership that we formed, and there's going to be some big press coming out on that. That's a
We'll
partnership.
include it in the feature, man. I think this is so cool and it is so needed.
Yeah. They're working on a press release on that right now. Neurostar TMS is a very large company. It's a publicly traded company. They, in my opinion, based on everything and the research that we've done and the doctors' opinions and what I read, they build there are only about 3 or 4 manufacturers of TMS equipment in the world. These guys are number one. That's why I went to them with the franchise model. The CEO of that company is very progressive. They match dollars, advertising dollars with our franchisees. That's how progressive they are and how committed they are to this franchise.
Every dollar that a franchisee spends, they'll match.
Yeah, it's there's a sliding scale on it. But it basically works out that way, that they, if you want help in your look, it only takes in our franchise model, it only takes about 10 patients for the franchise to be extremely profitable. And because you can't treat more than 10 patients at a time with one TMS chair, you don't have the time of the day. Yeah. And so, TMS, the TMS model, the franchise model is built around that we're looking for 10 verifiable clients, students, and those students can have insurance. All insurances pay this modality. They all pay it. We do all the licensing, credentialing, training, billing. We do the insurance billing, the collection. We have a 24/7
you do the insurance collection too. You do all of that, and you do the billing and insurance collection. Is that what you said too?
Right here in this building.
Wow, that's huge, man.
All billing. We have a 24/7 call center. Neurostar Corporation has built us a second call center just for the calls coming into them about us, so that they can take those calls for our franchisees and then push them to me, my staff, and then we will put them out to our collective franchisees.
Kick ass, man. So somebody can somebody integrate this into an existing thing, or would they start with, is it only, I guess I would say, for standalone?
I would say it's probably only for standalone.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. Yeah. Well, maybe somebody has another sensor or something like that, or whatever it would be, or they're thinking, God, this is exactly what I've been looking for.
And the CEO of Neurostar and his staff and myself and my staff, we have a goal in mind, Rob, and it's to build a minimum of 300 locations, a maximum of 500 in the next 5 years. That's our goal. We believe that we're going to achieve that based on the team that we put together, the training team that they've helped us implement. We're starting to do trade shows. We've got 8 trade shows lined up for this next year, starting this fall. And we believe we're going to achieve it. I've got the right team, the right players in place. We've got offices now opened up in Las Vegas, Salt Lake City, Sioux Falls, South Dakota, Minneapolis, North Carolina. The whole state of North Carolina was a developmental deal. We are not looking for everybody. We are looking for people with financial wherewithal to do developmental deals with us. Not one location, but maybe 5 over a 3-year period. So I don't want to deal with, we don't want to deal with one person at a time. That's not the model.
So where do people connect with you, either as, I think I want to be a patient or a client, or my son or my daughter, my husband, my loved one, I think should be a patient, number one. And then also number two, if you're thinking like, wow, this sounds like something that there'd be an opportunity to help a lot of people. And maybe this is my own left turn, as I like to call it, left turn in sobriety. And I reinvent myself to do something entirely different. How do they get back to you?
They, if they're looking to be a patient or client, student, they would go to zionhealing.com.
Zion Healing, ZION healing.com.
Yep. And if they're outside of our area, we will direct them to one of our franchisees. If they are interested in the franchise, it's Zion Healing Centers, plural, .com. And that's all about the franchise opportunity.
Zion Healing Centers with an S.com. We'll
Right.
include all of this in here. Is there any number that they should call as well?
They can call 833-446-3733.
Okay. We'll put all of this stuff in here. You know, as I said, kind of when I got a little worked up talking about, you know, COVID and where we are today is, you know, a lot of our writers, they call this the pandemic within the pandemic. And I believe so. I think that mental health is wreaked far more havoc in my, you know, don't throw rocks at me, whoever's looking out there, but I think it's wreaked far more health. I think it's undebatable in terms of economic and all the other repercussions from what's happened is how this has been addressed worldwide. And I can't think of something that is more needed today than something that is going to help people get past the pain in their life and get onto a life of meaning. So, you know, I see this as a, you know, godsend as well.
Yeah, agreed. Totally. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for jumping on. And I know your time's valuable. So this has been another fun, cool. I love talking with my friend here about great stuff. Recovery Today interview, Robert Cord Beatty at Zion Healing Center. And this is a wrap.